Hey, I'm Supats, lifelong solopreneur. Now living my life with only one passion to help solopreneurs to launch their digital products on fast track so that they can be profitable as fast as within 1 week, and they want to scale, they can join the membership. And as a bonus, I show them how they can sell their digital products all over the world using affiliates. Without further delay, let's get started. Welcome to New Beginning Inspiration for You podcast, and we have a special guest today. I just want to give you introduction. For example, I wanted to write books for a long time. It is like a couple of decades. I always thought of writing books, and finally I started implementing just few years back. And it's a long process. It's not as easy as it looks because I have written books. Right now, my books are just getting edited and they are getting read, and then I'm getting feedback and all. Still, they haven't published. Books haven't published, and I'm still, I think, stalled over there. But no, I got a guest for you who is a bestseller author. He is really, really accomplished. He has written amazing books, and he is going to navigate us how to write a book, how to publish, and how what is his journey, how he achieved in this particular process. So, without further delay, let me invite JV Hillard. Actually, his name is Joe, but I want to say JV Hillard because that's his professional name, and people, I want you to look for him anywhere on channels or social media, anywhere you will look under JV Hillard name. So, that's why I'm calling him. So, Joe, stage is yours. Please take away. We want to know your journey, how you started writing books, and what inspired you, how much time it took. So, just let us know about your story.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your followers. And you're right, I wasn't always an author. Prior to me becoming an author, I was a defense lobbyist in Washington, D.C., doing a lot of work with technology companies that were selling their tech to the Department of Defense and other related agencies. Um, but when COVID happened, I, like many others, didn't have very much to do for about a year and a half. So I found that one thing that I wanted to do was to, kick something off my bucket list, and that turned out to be writing that book, which turned into a series of books, which has now turned into its own career. So it's a little different than I had anticipated, but it was a real change from what I was doing every day. I mean, being an author is a lot different than being a professional. There are similarities, of course. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work, to put it lightly. But for me, I stumbled through alone some of the things you just asked me, which is how did I become an author, and what road did I take to get there? And I was lucky to have some friends in the business that helped me out. So when I wrote my first manuscript, I turned that over to a friend of mine who just happened to be a writing professor at a local community college, and she edited it for me and said, "Look, you really need to find a professional development editor." And she referred me to someone who became my professional editor, who then referred me to my publisher. And so, as a result, I became traditionally published. But not everybody needs to do that. I write fiction novels, so there are folks out there that are writing nonfiction that can serve themselves just as well going through a hybrid publisher or being, an independent, you're just independent author and publishing it on your own through Amazon or other means. So those are things we can get into more specifically, but ultimately my inspiration, getting back to the second point of your question, was that I've always wanted to be an author. It's one of those things that's hard to do because it takes a while for you to get money. You have to make money at it. It's just like owning a business, and people don't think about that when there are these romantic visions that they conjure up in their head about going and sitting in your den or your coffee shop or writing, in your bedroom. And some of that happens, but ultimately it doesn't go down. It's a real team sport. You have to find the right copy editor. You have to find the right, development editor who's going to tell you where the problems are. You mentioned a few of them before, where you're sending it out to beta readers who are telling you what they like and what they don't like about it. And then you have to make a choice on whether or not you want to find a publisher or publish it on your own these days. And there's no right or wrong answer there. It's just a matter of, your personal preference. And some options might not be on the table right away for new authors, like finding a traditional publishing house that'll take your work. So, for me, I got a little lucky, but the inspiration really came from my childhood. My uncle was a Marine, and he was paralyzed in a war. And when he came back, my mother became his nurse, and there was very few things that he could do. And I grew up by his bedside, and he was like a second father to me. And one of the things he could do was write. So he wrote horror stories and suspense stories, mostly short stories for publications and magazines and things of that nature. But as a kid, I wanted to be him, so of course I wanted to be a writer, and I had a talent for it. So I didn't mind, doing that and going down that path. But life gets in the way, and you go to college and you graduate and you get married and you have to have a home and a family and all those things. And authorship takes a while to start to pay the bills. And so I fell into what a lot of people fall into, a day job. And in this case, my own entrepreneurial day job, a company I started as part of it. And then, the COVID, you know, crisis happened. And as a result, I had a chance for a second start. And
Yeah,
so I
that's
took
actually
advantage of
my
it. And
next
that's where we
question,
are today.
because I interviewed lots of authors, but none of them were writing for career. Most of them actually they were writing to get better clients through their business, or some just wanted to write because they wanted to get their message out. But I have hardly seen any author doing writing books as a career. So tell me how to make money, because most of the people told me book is just a expensive business card. So okay.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, right? So if they're using it for like nonfiction purposes. So if I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm a CEO, or I'm a scientist, or I'm someone who's accomplished something in their professional career, and they want to share that story, unless you're already wealthy or you're already famous, it's hard to translate that into book sales. You have to work for it. And by writing a book, especially a nonfiction book, you positioned yourself in some way as a subject matter expert. And that allows you to make sales on those books and go to conferences and speak, and do presentations related to stuff, especially if there's a business component to it that you could wrap around. And those honorariums, as well as some, ancillary book sales that will come from that, might put some money in your pocket. But in most cases, it's just a side hustle. It's an augmentation of your salary or your profit if you're your own owner of your own company or whatever it might be. So those things do take time, and then eventually, as people pay attention to you and they do see you as that domain expert, they're going to reach out and they're going to want more, and then you can take that work and move it to the next phase and the next phase and write multiple books within that genre that makes sense, whether you're using it as a marketing tool, like you said, a very expensive business card, or something that promotes you as a person and then gets you opportunities, whether it's for a promotion or whether it's for recognition in the private sector. On the fiction side, it's different, right? A lot of the folks do that. They do it as a hobby. I know a lot of very successful fiction authors that still do this as it doesn't pay the bills. It's not going to pay their rent, but it might pay their car payment on a monthly basis, or it might take care of some, groceries or insurances and things like that as well. So it's an expensive hobby, no longer a business card, but an expensive hobby, except for those that have broken through and become really mainstream. And when you see opportunities to translate your work into different media, like a movie or a Netflix series or a graphic novel or a video game, like all of those things, that's additional revenue you can get. And those things, whether it's the nonfiction side that you described or the fiction side where I am, it just takes time to get there. You're not going to rush and get there right away. You can use social media as a tool. I'm sure we could talk about that a little bit. Promotions. I always find that when I'm at conventions, I tend to do very well in sales, because I think I speak fairly well to folks, and influencing them to buy it while I'm there. But outside of that, they're picking you out of a million books that are on Amazon. So how do you get that? And there's only so much advertising you can do without the big push from a publisher or hiring a publicist to
Yeah,
help
this
you get some
is
recognition there.
yeah, so insightful. Thank you. I nowadays I get lots of invitations that finish your book in 1 day, write your book in half day, and it clearly tells that okay, they are using AI, and then they are telling okay, you can write your book, you can finish your book, and what is your opinion about that? Because I remember I was in one Zoom meeting and I was saying I'm not going to use AI to write my book because, first of all, AI cannot understand what I want to say. It is totally different thing. It is very mechanical, I think. I use AI, but I use AI mainly to get the blog outline or get the nice titles for my blog or article or something like that. But I don't depend on AI. But and then one guy told me, people will buy your books, but how many people are going to read your books? So why do you care? So, what is your opinion about this AI writing your book? Because I'm not much for it, but I want to know the insight. And you are successful at writing book and all. So I want to know what do you think about it?
Yeah, so my opinion on this is split. There is the artist's opinion, and then there's the entrepreneur's opinion. The artist's opinion is it's plagiarism. It's stolen. Like AI is not writing your book for you. It's going out into the wilds of the internet and scraping other people's work together and cobbling it together, weaving it together in a story that you and I both know are awkward. You have to read it and you've got to edit it because it's not great. It's adequate, right? And regardless of whether or not you could sell that or not, or someone's going to buy that or not, it's still stolen, right? Someone else wrote those words somewhere else, and now there are reverse AI engines that will go out there and tell you how much of a book was written by AI. It can tell you that stuff. So as an artist, I'm against it. I think that it's just not the way to go, especially if you're writing in nonfiction. You can share opinions or excuse me, I should say, especially if you're writing fiction. If you're writing nonfiction, you might share opinions with other folks, and there's only a certain amount of ways you could say the same words, and maybe a little less on the plagiarism side. But where it becomes a tool is exactly what you described, which is I need copy for my website. I want to find out what the best words are to generate for my title of my blog or the title of my book or the hashtags I'm going to put when I promote this. And I think all that is fair game. Now you're using it smartly to find ways to promote your material. And that's not, you're not stealing someone's hashtag. You're not stealing someone's title. It's helping you, it's offering you suggestions for your title based on keyword searches and popular songs and a bunch of other things. And as a result, it's directing you in a path to go. And I think from a business person, an entrepreneur's perspective, and looking at that, I think that is the right way to use that tool. I want my website to be found. I want my books to be found. I want people to look at my social media posts, and that's a way to use it. But to write your book, especially on the fiction side, it's just stolen from somewhere else. And you can go in and fix it. I had one writer friend, and I won't tell you who he is, who said he has enough books in the world to do this, but he asked the AI to write a book for him in his own tone, because authors, as you know, everybody has their own voice, and you hear it when you read it, and some voices you like, some voices you don't. Some people write very dense, some people write very simply, and he has his own voice, and he asked it and it came back and he said it was okay. It was all right, but again, he would have to go in and fix everything, so you might as well just write it, right? And like you said, maybe helping you outline the flow of the story. But the strange thing is I know publishing houses out there that use AI. They run your book through it, and they can tell whether or not it has the right cadence that people will buy, and they'll make recommendations or throw your manuscript out if it doesn't meet those things. And that's hard to do. Like, art is its own form, and sometimes it doesn't have to look like a W, or it doesn't have to be the circular hero's journey, to be entertaining. But AI doesn't know that, right? And so that they go and try to find stuff that you program it to look for, and then it just identifies it. Like you said, the word you used was perfect. It's mechanical. There's no heart and soul to it. And so even though that might sound like an artist cop-out answer, I think it's an honest one, and it's one that's reflective of the community. Is like, well, wait a minute, I have 4 published novels out there, and maybe the book that you're writing with your AI stole stuff from my book. Like, how do I get paid on that? You didn't ask me for permission to do that. But that AI didn't write it. It just went out and found it and threw it into your book. So there's all sorts of problems. There needs to be some form of, industry standard brought around that so that everybody knows what to do
What
and what
about
not to
the
do. But right
audible
now it's
books?
kind of the Wild
Because
West.
somebody was telling me if you create a voice with AI for your books, Amazon doesn't approve it because even they don't even want the AI voice for their audible books. So, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it's the same problem, right? So there are services out there that you can pay a monthly fee for, or a one-time fee for a voice to voice over your book and make it an audiobook for you. Um, Again, that becomes, what voice is it? Did it make it up, or did it steal from other people's voices to put it in? Was there a cadence, an intonation? Was there an accent that it found that it stole from someone else as it's doing it for you? As well as, I understand from the author side that getting an audiobook produced for you is expensive. It could cost you money. You may never see that money back, but it's, again, you could partner with folks in a variety of different ways to make it more affordable. They can work on royalty share. You don't have to be just paying them out of pocket. In other cases, you do. That's the only way they'll work. So I get that there's a functionality there, especially for startup authors. And I'm not telling them not to look at it. I'm just saying, understand what it is that you're using when you're using it. It's in many instances stolen art from other places. In this case, it could be a computer generated voice. I don't know, but the AI stuff it's here and it's here to stay. And it's how they wrangle it eventually. Nobody, we'll see what happens. I guess in the next few years, we'll get more clarity on that. But for now, I would much rather have a real person with a real voice that it doesn't sound mechanical at all, that knows when to, intone something or accent something because they're reading it the right way and they're part of the story, as opposed to, some bot that's doing it for you. So that's just my personal opinion.
No, no, I just wanted your
I'm not the
opinion. Don't worry
source on
about
it
it. I
all,
just wanted your
but
opinion
I'm not
because
going to use
your
it. Yeah,
opinion is expert
yeah.
opinion for me. So I totally appreciate your opinion. So, how can we use AI for our book marketing?
Sure. I mean, AI marketing is different. It's just pushing your product, right? And it's looking for hints to get it in the faces of readers. And if you're going to expand your readership, it's okay to do that. I don't have a problem with AI helping with marketing, advertising, identifying, readers for you, pulling them in, or attracting them to come to the website or find your material. I think that's fair game. I just, that's just a business tool, where, the creation
So
of
tell
art
me
is a
more
different
about your
story.
books. Means it seems you have written many books. Are you planning to create movies from your books, or what is your future plan? I just want to know about your current and future plan about your books.
Yeah, sure. So I have a 4 book series out right now. The first 2 are Amazon bestsellers. So the fourth one just came out in September this past year and finished the series. It's called the Warminster Saga. The first book there is The Last Keeper, and it's an epic fantasy story that meets dark fantasy. So the good guys don't always win. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say epic or dark fantasy, it's basically Tolkien and Lord of the Rings meets the Gothic, right? So it's a little different, a little darker than a classical fantasy story like The Hobbit or, Game of Thrones, or any, if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons. Those are, I think road markers. If you like that kind of stuff, you'll like it, but you'll also see this is a scarier, a little darker, and you can anticipate that there are times when good guys don't always get to the finish line. So, it's a, you know, what I would describe as available for advanced young adults, 13, maybe 14 years old, is when I would have started reading this kind of stuff, through any age. And it's action packed. and it's unique. I've created my own world around it, the realm of Warminster. So, to put it, in layman's terms, it I can't use Middle Earth, that belongs to Tolkien, or I can't use Westeros, that belongs to Martin. So I created Warminster, and that's where my stories take place. And you're right, I do have several other things coming up. So I've got three standalone novels that are going to be released this year. The first two are origin stories of some of the more popular characters in the first four novels. And the last one is a bridge novel that takes one of those characters and links her from the end of the first series and brings you up to the beginning of the second trilogy, which will be released in 2026. And I'm working right now to have it created into a graphic novel that would also be released in 2026 along with the new trilogy. So there's some timing things we're working on there, but ultimately, um, yes, I'd love to see. You mentioned movies. I'd love to see it in a movie, on the silver screen. I'd love to see it on the small screen if an Amazon or a, Hulu or Netflix wanted to come by and talk to me about, bringing my stuff to life in a different medium. I think that helps, popularize the stories, and then I'll have more book sales off of that as well. So I'd be more than happy to talk about those things. And if you like things like The Witcher, or you like the most recent Dungeons and Dragons movie, or you like The Hobbit, or any of the things that you've seen on Amazon that's similar to that, like the most recent prequels to Lord of the Rings, this would
Okay,
be right
thank
in
you.
your sweet
And
spot.
I remember you mentioned about creating a team, finding a good team. And yeah, right now I'm looking for beta readers. And the feedback I'm getting, I'm not happy about it. Why I'm not happy? Because everyone is saying it is good. I want the constructive feedback. I don't want criticism coming after I publish the book. I want the criticism before I publish the book. Now, of course, criticism will come even after publishing the book, but I don't want just goody goody feedback. So, where did you find your team? How did you find your team? Because I really need to find someone who can give me constructive feedback. Someone can tell me, so this is not right. You shouldn't write this way. And I still haven't been successful at that. So tell me how you found your team.
Yeah, so there's a variety of ways I can answer that question. The first is when you're going out to look for beta readers, people that are going to evaluate your book and constructively critique it, make sure that they are fans of the genre in which it's written. They need to know the contemporary yeses and nos and what people expect when they're reading that stuff. So, by way of example, if I shared my book with my mom, she would say it was the best book ever, and that's not what I need. Exactly what you described, right? Of course it is. You're my mother. So, you don't share it with friends, you don't share it with colleagues because they're going to be afraid to give you their honest opinion. So you go out and find beta readers, some of which you can find for free on social media. There are people out there that will do your beta reading for an advanced reader copy of your book. In other places, your publisher or your editors may know some folks that are willing to beta read for you or be beta readers themselves. And they have a professional shell around them. They're used to critiquing. That's their jobs, to make sure that your product is the best it can be before you go to publishing. Like just like you said. So I would recommend that. The second place I would look is writing classes. So when I first became a writer, I took a couple of writing classes at a community college, and there was about a dozen, maybe 15 or so people in my class, and our jobs were to critique everybody else. And we wanted to be honest because that's the way we were going to get better. Iron sharpens iron, right? So it's one of those things where it's good to hear from 14 other people what they don't like and what they do like. And they were reviewing stuff chapter by chapter for the most part once a week for me. And so it helped me gravitate to that. And then after the class ended, a number of us stayed friendly, and we now have our own group, and we all write in different genres, but we're also professional enough to tell you what I like or don't like. Or if I don't understand something, maybe you need to bring it from your expert level down to my level so that I understand it. You might be writing up here and I don't get it unless and that way I'll fall off and won't finish your book. So those kind of things are also helpful for there too. On the theme side, I think the trick there is to find themes that everybody can identify with in real life. Now, my stories are fantasy, so they're made up, right? So there's always got to be some form of realism embedded in the bedrock of my fantasy to make it believable, right? People have to suspend disbelief to believe what I'm reading. They're not, this world doesn't exist. So show me that there's a pantheon of gods. Show me that there's its own currency. Show me it has its own unique spell system. Show me that, it has races and people that I can identify, certain social strata, even though it might not be the same to what we have here in the real world. Show me so I can identify with it, and then that helps them as well. But the struggles that I mean can be everyday struggles, and I think writers write what they know, right? And so if you've been through financial struggles or personality struggles or other kind of social struggles with folks, simple things like, do you have a physical disability? Are you, maybe someone of low income? Have you struggled through something that you can relate to, and then take the lessons learned there and translate that into something that's relatable inside the story? So a lot of those themes in my business are called tropes, right? So the tropes are things like unrequited love. Like, we've all been in love with someone that doesn't love us, right? So, and how that hurts. And can you write about that? Can you make those feelings surface in your writing so they're believable for not only the characters, but also the readers of those characters, so they can identify with them, because we've all been there. Or if there's some struggle against some evil, and the evil doesn't have to be Darth Vader evil. The evil can be a disease. The evil can be, famine. The evil can be something that we could all identify with in the world, including places in social strata. We're not all born wealthy. So how do you identify with the upper classes, and is there a struggle or problems you've had at work? The CEO versus the low person on the totem pole, or socially, hey, like, one of my main characters is of mixed blood. He's part elven and part human, so both the elves and the humans both look down on him because he is of mixed blood, and it's a lesson learned that you take from that. Or the fact that he's also a border knight. He's of the lowest form of nobility. So even though he's doing the hardest job protecting the borders of the kingdom, the people in the capital don't even care about him because he's not part of the elite. And the woman who falls in love with him is the elite of the elite. She sees his heroism and his gallantry and loves him for who he is, not what he is. And those are lessons that I think people can learn and translate into their real life and how they treat others, or how they want to be treated as well. So there's a variety of those kind of things that I think thematically match up with my genre. Now, your genre might be entirely different, and you might have to find your own themes, but those are the ways to do it, is find, identifying thematic struggles that people have gone through and bring them in so that they can identify with
Great.
what you're
And,
writing.
actually, when I was looking at your website and covers and all, it reminded me a lot of Harry Potter, and my whole family is Harry Potter fan. More than my kids, my husband. Means I remember, yeah, for I really for premiere show, more than my kids, my husband just wanted to go there and stand in a line for 1 hour, 1.5 hours to get into the theaters and all. So, how much influence do you have from J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, or how do you write? Because you do like a write like a Potter, or means I just want to know more about more insight on that.
Yeah, sure. So everybody takes influence from somewhere, right? And I think the granddaddy of fantasy is Tolkien, right? He wrote Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and every derivation of fantasy, contemporary fantasy, comes from that in some way. And I think that, it's hard to say I wasn't influenced by that, because that's really what got me interested in writing. I had my own stories. The other side of it was I was influenced by playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's a game, but it's not like a game like Parcheesi or chess where you're done, you put it away and it goes away and you start again. This has a tendency to last years, and you play it and your characters level up like they do in a video game, or you could play a video game for months before you finish it. Same thing happens in Dungeons and Dragons. But as part of that, it's verbal storytelling. And for those that might not have ever played the game, it's basically a group delusion where you've got one person who is the dungeon master, the person that's controlling the play, and that dungeon master is the main storyteller, and he tells a story or she tells a story that your characters, everybody else is playing, has to react to. And sometimes you take up the sword and go to battle, or you cast a spell, or you have to solve a riddle, or you have to save somebody. There's a plot there, but instead of it happening in your pages of your book, it's happening all in your mind. And to do that as a good dungeon master, as a good storyteller, I have to describe it so that everybody sitting around that table, or everyone these days, not sitting around a table as much as they are sitting around their computers, where they can play the game with me and see the same thing I'm telling them. And so there are times when I've, been dungeon master, and a lot of those good stories are battle tested. I've had about a dozen friends over the course of my gameplay in the last 20 years that I trust, and they trust me, and these this gameplay has been embedded in, some of which has been embedded in my books. Now, I have to take all the Dungeons and Dragons stuff out of it because I don't own those properties. Hasbro will come knocking on my door looking for some retribution, so I stay away from that. So I created my own realm, and with my own spells and all this other kind of stuff. And it's a derivation of Tolkien, or it's a derivation of other myths that have been out there. There's the Michael Moorcock myths, or there's the Cthulhu myths that come from H.P. Lovecraft, and all those kind of things. There are a variety of games that are out there that allow you to come up with this stuff. So I take inspiration from the Tolkiens of the world, and then also those that have played Dungeons and Dragons that get where I'm coming from. So even some of my favorite authors are like Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman and R.A. Salvatore, and others that have written for Dungeons and Dragons. They've taken their own characters and created, books and series of books, on them, called Dragonlance or the Dark Elf trilogy and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm just trying to do what they're doing inside my own lane. I've created my own realm for that,
Yeah,
and those are
sir.
the
I
places
want
where
to
I
know
take
more about
inspiration.
your offers. To whom do you help? And I just want to know more details because if I want any help about writing and publishing, for example, I haven't chosen the publisher yet, uh, um, a hybrid or self, I haven't yet decided anything. So, do you help really someone who wants to write a book and publish a book? Who is your ideal customer profile and how do you help them?
Yeah. Yeah. So my company does a variety of things. We do everything that you just suggested. Sometimes it's helping people identify the right publishing houses to approach. Other times it's helping them decide whether or not they want to be an independent, you know, writer, or if they want to be published. Like you can do, like I said before, there's no right or wrong there. It just depends on how you want to handle your work. That's part of it. The other part of it is we also help folks with editing, we help folks with ghostwriting, we help folks with formatting and getting their products ready to go. We help people establish their social media accounts and things like that so that they can get more followers and hence more sales. We help them put together content calendars and graphics, for things. And in the end, I even have a partner that does audiobooks. So, we outsource that to him, but, ultimately, there's a partnership there. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for folks that are looking to become an author, or they need help with their authorship. They don't have time because, like we talked about before, this is basic. Until you start really selling tens of thousands of books, you're not going to make money on this. So for you, you've got to look at it as you're investing in a business, and that takes time, and it's money out before money comes back in. And so, us being here as coaches and walking them through things that they need to do, no matter how simple or how complicated, and then allowing them to make the decisions of what they want to do on their own. A lot of this stuff is expensive, and you can get something edited for a lot less than coming to someone that, maybe that I'm using, that costs a lot more, for the purposes of what you just described. So, that's kind of what we do out here to help. And we just listen to everybody's story, find out what's best for them, make some recommendations, and then help them once they made a decision on the direction they want to
So, what
go,
is the
help them
budget
get
I
their stuff
should keep
published and out there.
aside per book? Because I have written three books and still they are getting read by beta readers, but how much budget should I keep aside?
So that depends on what you want to do with your book. That's a hard question to answer because if you're designing your own cover, that's an expense you can save. If you're doing your own formatting or you're doing your own social media, those are expenses you can save. If you're outsourcing all of that, then those are things that vary from consultant to consultant. So I use an outs. I don't have the talent to illustrate my own covers. So I use an illustrator that was recommended to me in the United Kingdom, and she does a great job. I get a lot of good feedback on my covers, and it's because she's a professional at it. So, but it costs me 300 or 400 American dollars every time I ask her to do a cover. Now, there are those out there that might charge $2,000 for the same thing, and those out there that would cost you $50, or that you can buy off of, books, or I forget the name of some of the $100, I think it's $100 book or whatever it is, and you just buy a self-made cover by a professional for $100. And sometimes they get deals. You can buy a bunch of covers and things like that for that too. So everybody, it just depends on what you want to do with that, and that's only one source of expense, right? Do you want a publicist? Do you want to find an agent? And an agent's going to work on a royalty-based fee, in some cases, and or a fee and royalty-based fee to help you get into the right publishers, or and then your publishers, depending on whether or not they're traditionally published. Are they buying your book? Are they helping you to, like a hybrid does, where you're buying their services as publication services to get your book published, and then they're going to try to get you on the shelves? And what does your publicist want to do? Do you have someone that's handling your social media? So you need a budget for that all on your own. And every one of those things, you can get the platinum, gold, or silver level. There's going to be people out there that are going to be very expensive but incredibly efficient at that stuff. Or you can, try to do it on your own to save money. And there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just a matter of figuring out what you want to do with it. And I would recommend in the beginning, maybe listening to two or three folks and then choosing a path, but don't overspend right away until you figure out whether or not you're going to need what you think you need, or if it's something you can do on your own. Especially in book one, where you're probably not going to sell a lot. You know what I mean? I think when I first got published, my publisher told me, you're not going to make any money until book four. And I got lucky and started making money at the end of book two, but it wasn't a lot of money. And uh, the idea behind it was that no one knows who you are. So you put out book one and you don't sell a lot of books. And then you put out book two, and now you're convincing people that you're around to stay. You've already written a second book. But in my case, I'm writing a series, and some people don't buy book one until they know the series is complete, and then they'll buy them all together. Right. So I had to go through book four and complete a series before I got some of my 4-book purchases. Right. It's just the nature of the beast, because there's a lot of folks out there that think they want to be an author. They do a book and then they run out of energy and they don't do any more. Right. So the people that are going to invest their time and money into your world, are they going to sink down into it, especially in fiction, or want to know that there's going to be follow-ups. You're going to have to be predictable. You're going to have to be dependable, and things like that too. So you don't really see that money until for a while. So depending on what you're trying to do, if you need help building your website, you need help with the illustrations, you need help with someone writing a blurb for you. Like, I have a hard time writing blurbs because I write epic fantasy. I like writing big, and for me, summarizing my 150,000 word books into 250 words or less is a task. I'm not good at it. So I'll pay someone to write my blurb for me because they're better at it. And I know that, and it's worth it for me. So I get a professionally done blurb. But that's the place. Hey, you
What
can
is the
do it. You could
range?
do it on your
You
own and
can
save
tell
that
me
money
this
if
is
you
the
need to.
lowest
So
range and this is the
every
highest. I just want to the range.
yeah, so my audiobook person, I pay $10,000 for, and he does an audiobook for me. On the bottom end of it, you can get someone to do an audiobook for you that's going to do the production, as well as find a narrator for you that will cost you somewhere between $300 and $700, and also take a royalty share from it. So you don't own your audiobook outright in the beginning until you get through a period of years. Usually it's a 7-year period. And that way, every download that comes from that, they get a piece of, and that's how they get paid. So they have skin in the game. They're betting on your book being successful, and they want people to download your stuff. So they're willing to produce it. They're willing to narrate it as part of it, and then you're one big team. So the one range is, I'm just paying someone that has, here's 10 grand, 8 grand to do the book. And a lot of it depends on how long the book is. My books have a tendency to be long, so sometimes those prices will be lower. and then way on the bottom price where you're going to get a couple $100 and a royalty fee as part of that you would sacrifice to get it done, or you do it on your own, right? On the website stuff, I've seen websites cost tens of thousands of dollars, and my website, the one you were looking at before that you mentioned, cost me $800, right? And that's more reasonable, where you've got somebody that's out there that is also going to be coordinating and making sure that the site is hosted appropriately, that I've got a newsletter, that I'm capturing emails from people that visit the site. I'm uploading my videos, I'm uploading my shows like this so that people can see me and know that I'm out there promoting my books, see what's coming next and things like that. On the social media side, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for someone to do all of your social media, you're probably looking at a couple $100 a month. And that would include creating your infographics and your illustrations and your daily posts and your search engine optimizations. And that was really around the going rate. But if you wanted to pay an agency to put you over top, those are
Oh
tens of
no, that
thousands of dollars
that
too.
gave me
So
really
I hope
clear
that kind of
idea,
gives you a
no doubt
breakdown
about
of where
it.
you're looking.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And so actually, I just wanted to ask you. So then, what do you suggest? Uh, uh, Means basically, even regarding my book cover and all, because my book is based on Bhagavad Gita, that is the Hindu's epic religious book, and entrepreneurship. So I'm trying to combine both together because I have been a part of various systems, and I learned the entrepreneur training from Bible. Then I said, okay, if I can learn from Bible, then sure I can do it from Bhagavad Gita too. And this area is totally not known, and how can I get help from other people, because I really don't know how can I find, because this whoever I'm talking to, it is totally unknown field for them. So
Yeah, what I would do is I would look for folks that are familiar with you, and you can find a lot of those communities online.
oh
So
yeah,
there is a service
oh
called
yeah,
Upwork. There is a service called Fiverr, and these are places where you can go and ask questions, post your stuff, interview them, read samples of what they've done, look at what they've created, and make sure that they're the right sub-consultant for you that can help you by doing that. And then you pay them on Upwork, but then their hours and their work is saved by an intermediary, and they don't get paid until you're satisfied with it. And so even though your stuff, there might be a role for someone like me to play, because I'm not familiar with everything you've just described. I might not be the right fit for you. I might be able to coach you to doing things on social media or formatting your book correctly, but I might not be the right
yeah.
person to advise you on
Yeah,
what
that
your
was my
cover needs to
question.
look
Yeah,
like, or
yeah,
is it written, like, can I edit something like that, yeah, without knowing what it is that you're trying to get across, because it might not be a cultural fit for me. But you could find people online that it is, and or folks like you that bridge two cultures, and that would allow you to, they can make that same level of interpretation, and it might be worth your while finding them. And of course, publishers are the same thing. Find publishers that understand that as well. You might not want to come to my publisher who publishes fantasy adventure to help you with what you're doing, because it's not the right fit. So you just have to go out there and refine your search to find those that understand the concepts that you're trying to,
and I'm on your
confide as
website and
people
it
read it.
shows events. So what kind of events do you host?
Yeah, so it's more me going to events. So I will go to a Comic Con or a Galaxy Con, or I will go to a book signing, or I'll go to a book club or a library, or this weekend there's a comic book show. I will go to those things, and then my readership will know where to find me. They'll be able to come out and ask me questions. They'll be able to come out and get autographs. They'll be able to come out and talk to me about what's next. Or I've even had people create fan art and give it to me in person, or fan fiction about the stuff I've written. So those kind of things, those are places where they know they can find me, as well as for me, it's
No,
also
that's
places
really
where I know
great,
I'm selling
because
books.
life
And
gave
it
you
keeps me on
lemon
track.
and you created lemonade. Means life threw COVID on us, but you wrote books during that time. And by the time your books were ready, COVID was gone, and now you are going to these places and in person. So you made use of this hurdle in a great way, and you created opportunity from that. Really means it's amazing story. I'm totally inspired. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot. Thanks a lot. Keep up the good work. I really appreciate. I asked whatever questions I wanted to ask, but if I missed out on any particular thing, and if you want to give any parting message, yeah, please feel free.
You know, yeah, my parting message is this. First of all, thank you very much for having me on. Second of all, as you mentioned earlier, if anybody's interested in reading my stuff, I'm really easy to find. JV Hilliard, HILLIARD.com will take you to my website. My books are published by dragonmoonpress.com. And then if you want to follow me on social media, I usually get back to direct messages on there once a day. And if I'm busy, that's the only time I want. If I'm at a convention somewhere, just look at me for at JV Hilliard
Thank you.
or
Really
at JV
appreciate.
Hilliard
And
Books, and you'll find me.
surely means I will contact you and your team, and let's see if we can work together. If it works out, that's fine. If it doesn't, still I will learn a lot of things from you. Thank you. Really
I would love
appreciate.
to.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been my
Okay.
pleasure, and
Bye.
look forward to connecting offline then. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We are blessed to have you as part of our community, and whatever way we can help you, serve you, let us know. Please subscribe and let us know how we can help you, what resources you want. We have lots of free resources and also free collaboration joint venture groups you can join and explode your business, because most solopreneurs quit their business before they launch their first products, and I don't want that to happen to you. And that's why we have special launch service where you can monetize your digitals and become profitable as fast as within 7 days. And if you want to scale your business, join our membership New Beginning Success Collaboration, where we'll provide you MRR and PLR products and collaborations so that you can scale your business with ease and effortlessly. And hey, if you want to sell your digitals all over the world, yes, we will provide you affiliates more than 200 countries. So everything is possible. Just live your dream, follow your dream, and whichever way we can help you, do let us know. Thank you and God bless you.